tiered skirt because you can never have too many tiered skirts. And I'm going to show you how to make this tiered skirt by upcycling a bed sheet. Now, I have a queen size bed sheet for this, but you're welcome to use a twin size bed sheet or a king size if you want more or less ruffles. Most top sheets will come with a little design on one end. We're going to save that for this skirt because we're going to use that for the waistband. It'll add a little extra design, and also so we can use this for the casing for our waistband when we put the skirt together. You probably won't need the fitted sheet for this design, but if you're very tall, you might need it for an extra ruffle. But you're also welcome to use the fitted sheet for extra volume if you want a really big puffy ruffle skirt. Also, this fitted sheet was attacked by a dog and the top sheet was attacked by a cat, so I hope I'm not gonna get attacked by anything when I'm wearing this. We're going to start by cutting out the longest ruffle first. That's going to be the tier on the bottom of your skirt. So we want to use one of the two longer sides of the sheet for this tier. You want to cut the tiers about 10 to 12 inches wide, so your skirt will be long enough and also have enough volume. Since I'm pretty short, I'm going to cut 3 of my tiers at 10 inches wide, but I'm going to make my longest tier 12 inches wide. Using that 12 inches as a guide, I'm going to lay it along the longest edge of my sheet, and I'm going to cut all the way across. I'm also going to unpick this end on my longest tier and re-sew the hem flat. Next, you want to take the bottom of the sheet, so that's going to be the short side that doesn't have the design along the top. For the rest of the tiers, I'm going to use that 10-inch measurement, and I'm going to cut along the whole length of the sheet. Next, we're going to take the second long side and cut another 10 inches out. And then cut the design off the end of the panel. So the last side you should have left is that one with the design on it. That's the top of the sheet. I'm gonna cut this one to 10 inches wide as well, but you're welcome to make it shorter if you want a more dramatic flare out from your hips. This waistband only needs to be large enough to go around your hips and your stomach. So if you want to cut a few inches off the edge, you can do that. I'm gonna cut 8 inches off the edge of mine. After laying out my tiers, I can see that 2 of them are about the same size, but I want each tier to be a little bit bigger than the next one so that they'll have a little bit more flare. So I'm going to cut the second tier to about halfway between the waistband and the third tier. But if you want a lot of volume, use the remainder of your sheet and your fitted sheet to make each tier 2 to 3 times the length of the tier before it. That will give you a lot of extra ruffle for a really full skirt. The next thing you want to do is finish that raw edge on each tier. You can use a zigzag stitch, you can roll the hem, or you can use a serger. I'm going to save time and use my serger. And after fighting with my serger for like an hour to get a somewhat decent stitch, I'm wondering how much time I saved. Once you have all of your edges finished, you want to turn all of your tiers into loops. So make a seam overlapping the short edges on all of your tiers. And double check that you're not twisting your loops either. You want them to form a complete circle. And make sure that you line up the top of the waistband and the bottom of the bottom tier really well. Next, we want to gather the back side of each tier. So you want to run a line of gathering about 1 to 2 feet. Use that seam you just made as the center of the back. You do not need to gather the waistband. Fold your waistband in half. Find the center of the back and the center of the front and mark those. Take your second tier, that's the second shortest one. Find the center of the front and the center of the back and line those up with the center of the front and the center of the back on the waistband piece. Pin them right sides together and sew them with a straight stitch. Then repeat with the other 2 tiers. And as you progress down the tiers on your skirt, you may want to let the gathering out across a longer span. For example, I gathered the first tier to about 6 inches wide, the second tier to about a foot, and the third tier to 1.5 feet. This will allow the skirt to ease out towards your hips rather than bunching up straight towards the back. And I like to start sewing at the end of the ruffle, so when I come around to the other side of my ruffle, I can ease any extra fabric into the ruffle without it looking wonky. After you have all of your tiers sewn together, it's time to get your measuring tape out because now we're going to make the drawstring. The drawstring is going to start in the center of your lower back, right along your natural waistline. But if you want your skirt to sit down by your hips like a pair of jeans, then measure just below your natural waistline. You can either pin that to your waistline and measure how long you want that drawstring to be in front. Take that measurement and make 2 lengths of that drawstring, 1 for each side. Or you can measure how wide your hips are and make 2 lengths of that measurement. In general, a measurement between 30 to 40 inches, 1 for each side of your drawstring should work if you're having difficulty figuring out how long you want them to be. I've decided I want a very long drawstring, so I'm going to measure mine around 50 inches. I also really like this crinkly effect on the edge of my fitted sheet after I took the elastic out of it. So I'm going to use the very edge of my fitted sheet for the drawstrings. And I'm in luck because the short edge of my fitted sheet is about 50 inches long. So I'm going to cut off both the top and the bottom pieces of my fitted sheet, and I'm going to make them 1.5 to 2 inches wide. That should be good enough. Next, you want to fold your drawstring in half, inside out, and pin it along the whole length. You want to sew the full length of your drawstring and then close one side up but not the other because we're going to tuck one side into the waistband. Make sure you clip really closely around your edges. Help them to sit more smoothly when you turn them inside out. And remember that it will look a lot neater if you do press it before you turn it inside out. But if you're using the crinkly effect of the fitted sheet like I am, don't iron it because then you're gonna ruin that effect. And at this point, you can close the ends off if you choose to. Next, we wanna insert the drawstrings into the waistband. So find and mark the center of the front of the waistband. Mark 2 spots about 3/4 of an inch on either side of that center and 1.5 inches from the top. Put a horizontal pin 1 inch up from that spot. Using a stitch ripper from the lower mark to the upper mark, rip just the top layer of the waistband. That's going to be the side on the front. You don't want to stitch rip through both layers. You will have 2 holes in the front of your waistband and no holes in the back. Next, we want to bind these holes like we would a buttonhole, but make sure that you only bind the hole and not the fabric on the inside of the waistband. We're going to need to hand bind these. You can use embroidery floss for this step, but I'm just going to use the thread I've been using. Starting on the bottom of the hole, sew a blanket stitch all the way around the opening. A satin stitch will also work for this, but it won't hold up as well. And I like to feed my thread back through the whole loop to reinforce it. And repeat that on both sides. Once you have both of your loops bound, it is time to insert your drawstrings. Take both of the drawstrings and thread each of them through one loop, bringing the end to the back of the waistband. That's mine. Then pin the drawstring just to the side of the center of the back of the waistband. Then you want to sew a vertical or straight stitch to tack that drawstring into the waistband. You can make shorter or smaller tacks if you prefer, but I wanted to make sure this is not going to come out. and you are done making a drawstring tiered skirt out of a bed sheet. Just make sure you give it a good pressing before you try it on. Y'all don't know how hard it is to find a maxi skirt when you're only 5 feet tall. It's really hard to find one that's not just so long you have to wear it with heels all the time. And this is the perfect length for a maxi skirt. I love the length of this. It came out perfectly. I do have to say though, if you are ever shy and you used my measurements of 10 inches for each tier and 12 on the bottom, this will probably be a T-length skirt on you. So if you want it to be longer or a maxi skirt like I have, you might need to add an extra inch or two to each tier. I love the length, I love the color, and I love that this is so comfortable. This is the perfect size because you can adjust this waistband however you want. You can adjust it so it sits down low, or you can raise it up to your natural or an empire waist. You can wear the drawstrings out, or you can tuck them into your skirt. Either way, it really doesn't matter. And if your drawstrings are long enough like mine, you can wrap them around your back and tie a bow along the back if you like that look as well. And it also looks great with the shirt over the top. And I probably like this look the best. This is the most comfortable for me to wear. I think that's the fabulous thing about this skirt is there's just so many different ways you can wear it. And I made this just in time to wear it to Thanksgiving, which will be perfect because I can just let that drawstring out a little bit once I've had my dinner. This is super soft because this was a really nice sheet set that I used for this skirt. So don't cry if your dog tears up your favorite sheet set because now you have the perfect skirt to turn it into. And if you did end up making this skirt, I would love to know how you did. Let me know how it turned out. And if you love this beautiful skirt as much as I do, then make sure you subscribe to my channel because I have a ton more videos to share with you. I have a ton of stuff I want to make, and I have a ton more sheet sets that I can make stuff out of too. Thank you for watching my video, everyone. I will see you next time.